where we are going to start today, and it was very tragic over the weekend, a hunting trip inland from Tolaga Bay ended with a 44-year-old man being fatally shot. John Atkins was out hunting with friends on Saturday night when he was shot by a member of another hunting party, a boy aged under 13 who was spotlighting with his father. Atkins was flown to hospital in a critical condition but died several hours later. Police today said an investigation into the shooting was ongoing and they're providing the Atkins family with support. They also confirmed a 39-year-old man appeared in the Gisborne District Court on Monday, charged with unlawful possession of a firearm. Police allege the man, believed to be the boy's father, did not have a firearms licence. In total, the active firearms and hunting community in New Zealand is approximately 235,000 people. So with the love of the great outdoors and many Kiwis heading into it, tragically there will be accidents and in some cases fatal ones. And while we do not know the entire facts behind this shooting, I thought it would be good to talk about hunting and firearms. And joining me now is Gwyn Thurlow, CEO of the New Zealand Deerstalkers Association. Gwyn, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
No, look, thank you for being on here. And look, I want to preface this by saying we don't know the full facts of this shooting over the weekend, so this is not what we're going to talk about per se, but I thought it might be appropriate to reiterate firearms use, especially in recreational hunting. So firstly, Gwyn, the NZDA is the only organisation, am I correct, to offer nationwide firearms and hunter safety training. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And firstly, I want to say my heart goes out to the family and best wishes for the loss. And I think it's a tragedy all around with what's happened with the people involved and the young person that was the accidental shooter. It's really a tragedy. But yeah, in terms of hunting, it's a really popular sport. As you mentioned, we do offer nationwide training in a network of clubs and ranges. And firearm safety is one of our core goals, so making an informed and aware hunting community. And so happy to be here and just talk about that issue because it's a really important one and it's one that affects a lot of New Zealanders because hunting and food gathering, like you said, is a part of our culture.
Yeah, of course. People go out every weekend. They'll go out for weeks on end. So how does your particular training work?
So we have what's called the National Hunter Training Scheme or the HUNTS program, and in recent years we've partnered with DOT as part of the Jobs for Nature to really expand that, and that's a training course that we offer through our clubs across New Zealand to, train new hunters and learning hunters in all the ways of being safe as a hunter, so bushcraft, firearm safety, firearm use, and of course hunter safety, and a key part of that is the basics of firearm safety. And if we can teach these hunters to follow the basics and do that kind of training, we avoid the tragedies that happened recently. And it's sort of a trend that we're seeing with a huge uptake in hunting. So as the Deerstalkers, we've had significant growth in the last few years of people wanting to learn how to hunt and get food security and feed their families. And we're having 4 times subscriptions for our courses, so there's huge demand. Yeah, it's incredible the demand that Kiwis have to learn how to hunt and get their food.
That's Gwyn, that's super interesting. Is this because, I'm guessing you're saying in the last couple of years it's become fourfold. Would that be because of, the cost of living, coming out of COVID, people just decided, you know what, it's right out there, I'm going to go out and get it?
Yeah, I think there's been a heightened awareness around, the availability and the abundance of game animals. At the moment, we're partnering with DOC on a wild goat competition. We have a Minister of Hunting and Fishing, Todd McClay. You might have had our press release where we're the ACT Party, there's a private members bill to put hunters on the Conservation Authority.
Yes.
You got the Wapiti issue. There's a huge momentum and a shift towards hunting, recreational hunting, and hunters as conservationists. So I just think it's sort of building, and there's a big urban and rural interest in it. Obviously, the incident on the weekend happened in the East Coast, and that's hunting heartland, where there's lots of families up there. It's part of their culture, and they put food on the table, pork and venison all the time. Yeah. And one thing I'd comment on that without knowing the facts, but those people, that young 13-year-old should have had access to training. The father should have been licensed. And if they'd followed the basics that we support, which is the 7 basics, and everyone gets licensed and trained, we'd avoid these kinds of tragedies. And it's a shame to hear that a father and son probably out there getting food didn't go through the licensing process, didn't do an NZDA hunter education course, and it could have all been avoided if they'd had the opportunity to do the right thing.
Gwyn, with the hunts training that NZDA does, who actually trains? Are they volunteers? Who are they taught by? Who is it?
Yeah, it's volunteer run. So we've got a long history. We've been training since the 80s, and we have experienced hunters, senior hunters, who are put through an internal qualification program, and then they're warranted as hunts instructors. They do range officer course. They have to have suitable experience, first aid course, and then get approved to teach our syllabus. And it's a really glaring gap in the education in this country where a not-for-profit has to fill the gap, where we think there should be more government support for these kinds of programs, because it's a huge part of New Zealand's culture to go hunting and use firearms, and it's not part of the licensing process. There's no practical component. So anyone can start hunting without any formal training or any introduction. You can just get a license, get a permit, which is an online process, and go hunting, which as an organisation we fill the gap to the best of our abilities and subject to the volunteer capacity. Yeah. So it's something that we're proud of, and we would love to see it expand.
That's really, let's look at that, Gwyn, because I was thinking about that. I was going to ask you, and I don't expect you to have figures, but as you've just said, we've got more and more people that are wanting to go hunting and gathering and getting out there. So do you think we've got quite a few people out there that are out hunting without firearms licenses, because you've just said there is no formal process, although they should get a license. Do you think that is a bit of an issue?
It is something that we're aware of, and we've been making Nicole McKee, the Minister, aware of, and in her role as a former educator, and she was out there training these rural communities in safe firearms use. There is a lack of ability to access courses. So at the moment, historically, since COVID, police, through their licensing provider, Mountain Safety Council, who are the only provider in New Zealand, they license about 4,000 people. Right. Prior to the changes which Nicole's reviewing, there used to be a volunteer network of over 450 volunteer license providers. So we've severely reduced the capacity to license people in New Zealand. And before the changes to the system that we're all hoping is reviewed now, there was over 10,000 people getting licensed. So we've gone from a system where 10,000 people historically wanted a license and were licensed to 4,000. My assumption is there are 6,000 people there hunting without a license. And this is scary, because what it means is they've never read the arms code. They've never had an introduction to safe handling and use of firearms. They may not have the safety systems and the vetting done. And so there is a huge gap in just educating these people and vetting them and making sure they're doing the basics right. And we would have avoided this tragedy had that person been licensed and gone through the system. So, the system isn't working. It's not working for New Zealanders, and it's certainly having, really bad consequences of misuse of firearms.